Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 317 of Martha Runs the World. How are you this week? I am doing excellent. Very, very happy to make my show again each and every week. I never miss a week. Not to give anything away, but my vacation that I just had last week was the best vacation I've ever had in my entire life. Really, it was the greatest one. I'm going to tell you all about why it was so great. I haven't had a vacation of more than a few days, like 3 or 4 days, in, I think, 3 or 4, like 6 years. In fact, the last week-long vacation I've taken was in 2019 when I ran the Shasta 50K. I think it was 2019 anyway. You know how the years run together after a while. I drove up to Redding, and I was in Redding for a few days, and I ran that race. And then after that race, I drove down to Lake Tahoe and recuperated for a few days. And that was a wonderful vacation, too. But I was gone on this one for 8 days, which was just incredible. And like I said, I will tell you all about that. I also ran the toughest race of my life, and I'm going to call it the toughest because up until this point, the Shasta 50K was my hardest, and that race was my hardest because I hadn't yet replaced my right hip, and the last half of the 50K of that particular race, my right hip, not my left hip, my right hip hurt so badly, but I finished the race in complete pain. This race, though, that I did, the Bootleg Boogie 22 mile, no pain. I was in complete perfect health. It was just really, really hard. It was a really, really hard race. To start off my vacation, I took 8 days off work, and my schedule at work is such that every other week I have 4 days off, and then I work every other weekend, and I get a lot of PTO. So I had a bunch of PTO saved up. And I went down, I took Bart to SFO Wednesday morning and picked up my rental car at the SFO rental car station. I don't own a vehicle, so when I need to rent one, I go down there because the rental companies here in San Francisco itself, they run out of cars, and I do not want to not be able to get a vehicle when I need one. So I go down to the airport because they never run out of cars there. I always rent from Alamo because they've been so good to me over the last 3 or 4 times. So I say I'm going to stick with them because they are just really, really good company. I'm not affiliated with them. I get nothing from them. They've just been really good to me. And this past time was no exception. They upgraded me. I had a mid-sized car, and they upgraded me to an SUV, a smaller SUV without an extra charge. No extra charge. I walked up to the Alamo counter. There was no one else there. It was a very slow morning. There was no one, and I didn't have to wait in line at all. He just said, well, I'll upgrade you if you want. So I said, sure, why not? So I was upgraded to an SUV, and I'll tell you, I got the Toyota CX-8 all-wheel drive, a wonderful, wonderful vehicle. I loved this vehicle. If I was out to, or when I go out to buy a car, which I will in a couple of years, I'm going to look at this one because I loved this car. This was the best car or vehicle. I don't know if you call an SUV a car, but this was the best vehicle I've ever rented, and it was comfortable all the miles that I drove. And I think I drove about 1,500 miles in total. I went a lot of places. And it was just really, really good. Just a great, great vehicle. I have no complaints about it. It was easy to figure out, easy to drive, a lot of power. It didn't use up gas quickly. It was just a great, great car. I really liked it. And the clerk was really, really nice and helpful. Everyone there was just so nice to me. I just had a wonderful experience, as I always have with Alamo. I don't know, I've had bad experiences with Thrifty and Dollar and all those, and I've never had one with Alamo. And then on that first day, I headed down to Southern California to Ontario, where I stayed the first night. I met up with a friend of mine, and we had dinner with sushi. And we went to this great sushi place near my hotel. Oh, it was delicious. It was really, really good. And it was great catching up with her. She lives in Pomona, and I've known her for over 20 years. And that was really, really nice. And it was nice not to have to drive the entire way to Boulder City that I did last year. In fact, last year's drive was really awful because my arm was sore. It wasn't in a sling or anything, but it was still sore. And I drove the entire way from SFO to Boulder City, Nevada in one fell swoop. It was awful. And it rained. It rained almost the whole way. It was really, really hard. But this time, nope. This time I stopped down there and I stayed overnight. The only problem I took 101 part of the way, and then I switched to 5, and I took 5, and everything was fine until I got to the turnoff of 5 to 10, the San Bernardino Freeway 10, where where there was traffic for about. I was stuck in traffic for about an hour and a half. Apparently, there were 3 crashes that slowed down everything. That took a little bit of time, but that was fine. There was no big deal. She and I met up, and then we went and had dinner, and that was really nice. And that first hotel, okay, it was a decent, Best Western, so it was fine. And then I took off from there in the morning, and I went 15 to the Las Vegas area. I made a couple stops on the way. I went to the Magic 7 Mountains art installation, I guess it is, that's on the side of 17. If you see those big giant colored blocks, I wanted to see that. And that was massive amount of people. There were so many people there, but I went to see that. That was kind of cool. It was just too many people for me, a little bit too crowded. I think it would be cool to go there right at first dawn, at first light, to watch the sun come up. That would be a cool time to go. And I also stopped at Alien Jerky and got some really, really good beef jerky, and that was a fun stop. If you ever want to stop there, it's kind of cool. And then I took off, and I was staying in Henderson this time, not Boulder City, because the hotels in Boulder City are there's not many to choose from, and they're kind of expensive, and they're okay. They're good hotels. They're just not what I wanted. So I stayed in Henderson, which was like 20 minutes away anyway. So I stayed in a decent hotel there, and I was there for 3 nights. And I got there relatively early, so I was able to go to Trader Joe's and get some supplies and stuff. And then I went to the hotel. And then Friday, I got a couple errands done. I met up with Michael, my friend, who's puts on the Bootleg Boogie race. I met up with him, helped him out with a couple things, and I got something for dinner that I was going to have that night. But unfortunately, the hotel, and it was an okay hotel, but unfortunately, the hotel had the temperature of the refrigerator turned up so high that I was going to have this good salad from Trader Joe's, but it was frozen. So I had to go out and get something else for dinner really quick. Maybe not as good as I wanted, but I got a couple things that I had. And I also had some other things that I could eat in the room. But as long as it wasn't dairy, I was okay, because I can't have dairy the night before. But the good news was that I had a really good lunch. I had a chicken sandwich and some stuff that was actually quite delicious, and that got me through, and I was okay. And it turned out okay on my race. All right, now my race. I did the 22-mile. I was planning on doing the 33, but I switched it over, and thank goodness I did. The 22-mile and the half marathon both started at 9 a.m., so I didn't have a real early call time. That was our start time, and that was good. I was happy about that. I was able to get a good breakfast in, got some coffee, and got to the race. I forgot, I made a rookie mistake because I knew I was going to be taking my time because I don't run on single track yet. I'm still a little afraid of that. And the trails in the desert are scary and rocky, and there's no way I was going to run on them. I forgot to check the batteries in my headlamp, which is such a rookie mistake. And I'll tell you what happened later on. the race started, and the start of the race is this 2 miles uphill. It's like straight uphill. It's not terribly steep, but it's a continual uphill. And at 9 a.m., it was already 70 degrees, so it was quite warm that day. Unlike last year where it was cold all day long. It was very, very cold during the entire day. And I didn't realize it was going to get as warm as it did, but I was okay. I was fine. I was wearing shorts and a short sleeve shirt, so I was fine. Never really got super cold at night because I was out there at night. I was so slow, but I finished. So I'll tell you that. Anyway, I got up to the top of the hill. Then you go down one side, and then there's this cutoff, and it's a really, really scary cutoff. This cutoff goes straight down this side of this mountain, and it's nothing but loose rocks and loose sand and loose dirt. And I had my trekking poles with me, and thank goodness I had them with me, because I'm not sure if I would have gotten down okay. I had to go down sideways, stepping sideways down. I saw runners pass me who would just run down, boop, 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 and pass me up, but not me. I'm going to take my time. So I went down sideways, and I got down. I had to go down that cutoff twice, once in the daytime and once at night. And once at night was very, very scary, but I managed to do it twice. And then I kept going on the course. Most of the time, the course is inhabited by a lot of MX bike riders. They go out there a lot. And so the course is really designed for them. So a lot of the course is a series of small, steep hills, very small. I mean, they're short, but they're very steep. And those are kind of tricky to get up and over. And a lot of it is very steep, but very loose rocks. And it's very, very scary. And especially at first when I wasn't used to it. Now, after a few miles of it, then you get kind of used to it. Then it's not a big deal. But those first couple miles, it was like, holy crap, how am I going to do this? And thank goodness, Nevada desert isn't like Arizona where everything off trail wants to kill you. Nevada desert doesn't have cactus and a lot of that, so you can go off trail and go to the less mountainous or less steep parts of the trail and walk around these hills. Then finally I got used to those, and then it was like, oh, okay, I can do these. But it's really hard. And then there's this back part, the outer Caldera trail, and that is really hard because some of it you have to crawl over rocks, these big giant volcanic rocks you have to crawl over, and then the part that you don't have to crawl over is just rocky trail, just nothing but rocks. And you have to pay attention to what you're doing. And for part of it, I was thinking, do you remember that old song from the 60s or the early 70s? Hold your head up, Walter, hold your head up, Walter. Okay, I took that song and I made it into my own little mantra. Pick your feet up, Martha, pick your feet up, Martha. And I kept thinking that to myself almost the whole time so I wouldn't trip on any rocks. And yes, I had my trekking poles and they helped a lot, but I had to keep picking my feet up enough that I wouldn't trip over anything. And I only tripped a couple times, but I was able to catch myself. But I did okay. I did fine. I didn't fall, didn't have any injuries, I felt great the whole time. I was actually in pretty good shape. I probably went slower than I needed to. I probably could have gone a little faster, but I really, really wanted to take my time and do right. I didn't want to hurt myself, didn't want to fall, didn't want to get into any trouble. There was only one part that I did have trouble, and it was at night. I missed the turnoff. See, the turnoff to that cutoff was kind of tricky in that there was just a little. See, in trail races, usually when they have blue flags out, that's the trail you're not supposed to go on. And like an orange or yellow flag will mean that's the trail you're supposed to go on. So blue means no, orange or yellow means yes. So at night, it's hard to see the blue flag, and it's really hard to see the orange or yellow flag. Or they had an orange flag for the cutoff. But the orange flag is kind of far away, and the blue flag is hard to see at night. I missed the cutoff, and I kept going down the trail, and I said, this does not seem familiar. And down below on another trail, one of the guys was saying, "Hey, up there on the trail, I think you missed the cutoff." And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, it's back there about a quarter of a mile. You got to turn around." So thankfully for him, I was able to turn around and go back to the cutoff. And I really thank you, whoever you are. I thank you very much for saving my race. And I also want to say another thank you to past guest, Edouard Samant, because he saved me, because he lent me his headlamp. And I want to get it back to him next time I see him. Because I made the rookie mistake. I can't believe I did this. I thought I had everything planned, but I forgot to replace the batteries in my headlamp, so my headlamp was dead. And I didn't think of my headlamp until it started getting towards dark. And I said, "Oh my God, I forgot to check my headlamp." I had my headlamp with me in my pack, but it was dead. No working batteries. How could I forget that? It's like, oh, really? So what I need to do is I need to get a backup headlamp that charges USB. So I have one with batteries and one with USB. That would be perfect. So never, ever, ever go without your headlamp either charged or with batteries. And better yet, have a backup headlamp. Oh my goodness, that was so frustrating. But thankfully, I was at the Caldera aid station, and he just came up. I didn't even know he was doing the race. And he came up and I said, "Oh my goodness, you're there." And he said, "Yeah, I'm finishing up the race. You can use my headlamp. You can just take it." So he let me have his headlamp because he wasn't going to use it because he was almost done. That was so kind of him. So kind, because my race would have been done. I would have had to just DNF. So thank you for saving my race. Really, really thank you. That was a tough race. I felt good afterwards, and I was so happy that I finished. And I'll tell you, the volunteers, of course, rock. They were just awesome. It was great to see Jen was volunteered last year, and I was able to work with her and see her again, and that was awesome. And Carrie was there. Carrie was wonderful. Carrie is a past guest. She does the local races up in Northern California. She's not doing them this year because they problems with fires last year. Unfortunately, they had wildfires in her areas, but she's going to come back in 2026 with new races. So we look forward to that. And I'll have a link for her races on the website, martharunstheworld.com. And I'll have a link for the Bootleg Boogie race too. And it's just a great race. It's a tough race. It's hard. Anyone who did any of the distances in this race, it's just a hard race, but it's challenging. It's well supported and it's well worth it. It's really, really a good race. It's in a beautiful area. I will tell you, you won't see a sunrise or sunset as beautiful as you will in the desert. And there's no exception to this. It's just so gorgeous. It really, really is good. It's just a great race. You should try it. If you want to be challenged, if you want something hard, but fun, this is it. Okay. So Sunday, I woke up and I felt pretty good. I didn't have any cramping or anything like that during the night. I slept really, really well. And Sunday, I took off early. I went to, I was on my way to Death Valley. So I took off and I said, well, I got time today. So I'm going to go up to the town of Beatty and then I want to go to Rhyolite. Well, I expected a little bit more in Beatty. There wasn't like anything there. Okay, I saw a few burros. Beatty is a town in western Nevada. There's wild burros that walk through the town. So if you see wild burros, they're there. They're everywhere. I saw 3 of them. But I expected more in the town, to be honest. I did fill up my gas tank, and it was cheap. I was expecting it to cost me more, but it was pretty cheap. So good on them. It was like $3.10 or something like that for gas. Very, very cheap, especially in a town in the middle of nowhere. So that was pretty cool. So I went there, and then I went to Rhyolite. And I wanted to spend more time in Rhyolite, but I'll tell you, they had bathrooms there and they were locked. Why would you lock the bathrooms? Seriously, don't lock the bathrooms. If you want me to spend time there, if you want me to enjoy it, you got to keep the bathrooms open. There's not like there's trees where I could go behind. I can't. There's nowhere to go. Where are you going to hide? There aren't trees or anything like that. This is like open desert. Everyone can see everything that you do in the desert. It's like, come on, help me out here. Help me out. But I still enjoyed myself, and I enjoyed the ghost town. There's some really cool crumbling buildings there, and that's really, really interesting to see, and they have some really nice exhibits, and they'll tell you all about the buildings there and who lived there and why they built them. There's a few buildings I didn't get to see because I was a little bit in a hurry due to reasons beyond my control, shall we say. But I did also get to see the art exhibit, which is what I was really there for. That was really, really super cool, is to be able to see the art exhibit. They have the, I'll put a picture on the website, martharunstheworld.com, with the cloaked ghosts in a row. That was really cool. And they have all the kinds of different stuff there. It's a neat place to check out and to spend time at. If the bathrooms are open, come on, help us out. Plus, the desert is just such a cool place to drive around to. Really is. If that rental car had been my own car, I would have spent more time driving on those dirt roads because it's just so awesome. I don't want to take a rental car too far on dirt roads because you don't want to push it too much. I also went into Death Valley because I knew Death Valley would take more than a day. So I went to Furnace Creek first off and got my pass for the car. Now, see, I have a lifelong seniors pass for national parks, so I can go to any national park and it doesn't cost me anything. And if you are 60, I think it's 62 or older, you can get a lifelong seniors pass for $80. Or if you served in the military, you can also get a lifelong pass. It's pretty cool. They really give you nice deals. So I got my pass and I went, and Furnace Creek is a nice place to see. They have the little museum there. They have the visitor center. They have some pretty cool stuff there. And they have a little, snacks and food and water and all that fun stuff. So then I went to the Devil's Golf Course, which is really, really cool. You go out on this little dirt road and it's fine. People with sedans were going on this road. It wasn't a big deal. And you go out on the golf course and you can walk around and see how the salt has formed this really, really bumpy terrain. It's really neat. It's probably the neatest thing I saw that day in Death Valley. And I went to Badwater Basin, which was so many tourists. There were so many people out there. It was neat to see where the start of the race is, but it was just so overrun with tourists. There were a lot of people there, and I didn't stay as long as I would have liked, but that was okay. Then I drove to my next hotel, which is the Long Street Hotel and Casino. And this place is a trip. It's like stepping back in time. It's a neat hotel. The people who work there are very, very friendly. It's very safe. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It really is. It's out on this plain, and it's always windy. And you have these mountains in the backdrop, which are gorgeous. But it's out in the desert. There's a big giant cow and a big giant pig out in front. I didn't get pictures of them because it was just so windy out. I didn't want to spend a lot of time outside. It's a neat place. They have this casino, and it always smells like cigarette smoke. It's like, ugh. The food, they have a restaurant there, and the food is okay. If you get anything fried, it's going to be overcooked a little bit. But other than that, it was decent. The waitress there was so nice. She was the best part of the restaurant, let me tell you. They have a gift shop there. You can get stuff. You can grab stuff there and take it back to your hotel room. They didn't have a refrigerator or microwave or coffee in the hotel rooms, which I was kind of disappointed at. So you're kind of stuck. You can bring stuff that doesn't need refrigeration, or you can buy it at the gift shop or the hotel. You're in a little island out there, so you're kind of stuck. The hotel rooms are a little worn, a little old, but they're safe and clean, and it was reasonably priced, so I'm not going to complain. It's not like I can afford to stay in Death Valley. National park hotels are exorbitantly expensive, and it would be like $300 a night. So it's like, nah, I can't really afford that. So I didn't stay there, but this hotel was close enough to the entrance to Death Valley. It wasn't a big deal to drive. And the next day, I spent all day in the park. I went to Zabriskie Point, which is a really neat lookout where you can see everything in the valley. It just makes you realize how huge this place is. I mean, Death Valley, you really should go and visit it. Everyone should see it at least once. It's this huge, giant place. You just don't understand how big it is until you just see everything. And I kept thinking to myself, imagine, okay, I can just drive here and see everything in one day or 2 days. And yeah, takes me 30 minutes to get there from my hotel. No big deal. But imagine if you were a pioneer in a wagon train and you guys took wrong left turns or a couple wrong turns and you wound up in this valley. What would you think? Do you think you would survive? Would you survive? How could you? How could you get out of this? You would think you were in hell. You really would. You'd think that this was it. I went back to Furnace Creek and got a couple things I needed. I went on this paved road that's called the Artist Drive. It's really, really neat. It takes you towards these rocks who are very, very colorful, and they're just beautiful. And I would imagine if you went there at sunrise or sunset, they would just glisten and glow. It would be a really, really neat time to go. I wanted to go out after dark, but the skies were cloudy, so I couldn't see that really, really neat clear skies with all the stars. I missed that. I wasn't able to see that. So I'll see that later on this year when I go backpacking. I also went to the Harmony Borax Works, where I got to see where the borax was taken out of the valley. And borax is used in all kinds of things, everything from mining to detergent, all kinds of things, especially back years ago that used borax. And they used these 20 mule teams to get it out because it was so heavy and it took so long. Later on, when I'm driving to Paso Robles on 15, I passed the place where they get to the train station and it's a couple 100 miles away. So this 20 mule team has to go like 200 miles. It's insane. It's really a long ways. And where else did I go? Oh, yeah. I went to the Mesquite Sand Dunes. So they have this big group of sand dunes right in the middle of the desert. Stovepipe Wells Village, which is a smaller village than Furnace Creek, but it's a place that you can stop if you need to get T-shirt or gifts or sodas or food or something. There's a hotel there. There's also RV park. There's a lot of places that you can camp with a tent, you can camp with RVs, whatever. And this is the time of year to do it because the weather is nice. I mean, the weather when I was there was beautiful. It was like in between 70 and 74 degrees. So this is the time of year to go. The weather is perfect there. It really is nice. And it wasn't really that crowded. The only place I found that was super crowded was Badwater Basin. That was it. Everything else was fine. Wasn't like overrun with people. Even Furnace Creek wasn't that overrun with people. There's plenty of parking. There's plenty to do. Really wasn't that many there. And it's a big place too. I also went to Mosaic Canyon, which you go up this dirt road, and it's kind of a bumpy dirt road for 2 miles and you go to this canyon. Now, I was still kind of sore and tired for my race, so I wasn't up for a big hike. I went partially into the canyon. I'm sure I could have gone farther and seen more stuff. From what I saw, it was kind of cool, but I really wasn't up for a long hike or climbing over a bunch of rocks and stuff like that. I was like, no, I'm not really into that. Now, the road itself, I would have not gone into unless I had had an SUV with all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. I saw people taking up those big camper vans, those converted camper vans up, and they were just having a hard time of it. So it's like, I would not have taken them up. I also saw this woman in an SUV and she was having a hard time. It's like, you've got an SUV, it's got all-wheel drive, and she was going like 5 miles per hour, delicately going over this dirt road. It's like, you got an SUV. That vehicle is made for this road. I mean, come on. Why are you acting so gingerly with it? Go a little faster. Come on. Oh, that was so frustrating. So I finally went around her when I could. If you have an SUV with all-wheel drive, that's not made for you to pick up your kids from soccer. That's made for you to take on this type of road. I mean, for God's sakes, buy a sedan then and trade that in. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, I wasn't able to see Scotty's Castle in that it's still damaged from the floods from last year. And so I will have to go back and see that. And I would love to go back there because it's such a cool place. It really is just magnificent and just so much to see. And the thing with Death Valley is that it's so huge, it takes a long time to drive anywhere to see things. So you really have to take your time. You're not going to be able to see everything in one afternoon. You're just not. Even one day, it took me 2 days to see everything, and I didn't see everything. So give yourself enough time to scope out the place. And then on Tuesday, I drove to Paso Robles because I didn't want to drive all the way home from Death Valley. I decided that I thought I would drive there, and that would give me a long enough time to drive back. It just takes, 3 hours from there to get home, and that way I won't have to hurry home. I can get home and get home early and get some credit on my rental car, and then I can get home early enough that I can go out and get groceries for the apartment, which I know I have none. And that's what I did. So then I just stayed there at the hotel and got some dinner. And then the next morning I took off and I was home by, I got home, by 12:30. I was in the apartment by 12:30. So that was pretty cool. And so I got a nice big credit on my rental car. It didn't cost me as much as I thought it was going to. So that was cool. And yeah, it was just such a great, great trip. Everything went really well. I'm just very happy with it. And now I start on my training for the Cool Moon 50 in June. Did my race and my trip renew my love of running? A little bit. I am not obsessed by running. I love running and I still want to continue running. So I have 2 races coming up. I have one in May. I have a half marathon in May in Napa. And then I have my 50-mile race in June. I started planning out my training for the 50 miles. So I will continue on and get this done. I will tell you all about it. Well, I know I needed this trip. I really needed it for so many reasons. And I needed to finish this race and get my medal for this race. And really, I needed to have a really good race, which I did. And I feel really good. Every part of me feels really good. And I felt really good after the race. After the race, I was smiling and I went to In-N-Out and got a cheeseburger and fries and a shake. And I felt great. So now, like I said, I'm getting jazzed up for the 50 mile. And then after the 50 mile, I have to see what my future in races are. I will still run, but I don't know what I'm going to do as far as races go. I'm still thinking that. I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens there. That is the episode for today. And I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful year so far. We're already in February, already mid-month, right? My goodness. All right. But that is it. And thank you so much for listening. Everything will be on the website, martharunstheworld.com. And if you want to email me, it's martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.